Try to get all this read.
Before you got out of here.
All right, we're gonna, let me stop by your chair. real quick.
Come on, come on.
Thank
I
you.
think it's hard reading it. Try it right.
Sure. Sure.
I had some notes in case someone is here tonight that was not here on the 18th.
12.
Well, I guess I'll read through those anyway. There's nobody here.
Good.
Not here.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Okay. We'll wait on Russell.
He's here.
Yes.
He's here. And it's 2:30, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And first thing, Brother Bob, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes, sir. Our Father and gracious Lord, we come humbly before you this afternoon, Father God, to say have mercy upon us. Lord, we ask you to be with us and bless us during this meeting that we may be able to take care of the business of the city of Thomaston. God our hearts and God our mind. In Jesus Christ we all pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so first thing we need to do is approve the minutes from the January 12th meeting. So that was sent to you in the email. Have everyone read those? And anyone see any omissions or anything we should discuss? If there are no corrections, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of January 12th.
I make a motion that the minutes be approved from the last meeting.
Okay, Troy, motion, any second?
I'll second.
Sandy, second, okay. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right, passed. So, we're here today, again, to discuss the protracted city code regarding zoning. And we're going to, three things here: discuss the authorization of new zoning and sign ordinances, discussion and authorization of a new zoning map, and then discussion and authorization of updated policies and procedures for conducting zoning public hearings. All right, so we'll begin with the discussion. If anybody got any thing they'd like to bring up before the zoning board regarding the new zoning and the sign ordinances, then speak out.
Let me just say I'm impressed. It was a good job. You know, I've got a few little things there that I just wanted to know why this, why in this category, why not there, whatever. But just very minor things. But overall, this is going to really help us in future zoning boards to be able to, and don't help the officials with the city before it even, when people come in. It's got, great definitions to start it out there. I think that a lot of the questions I had were answered when I read, the definitions of what a personal care home is and that kind of thing and all, and so this is going to be a big help. And I've just got a few things. I don't know how we're going to handle this today, but I've just got a few little things that I can do. But first, if we want to just in general,
Sure, that
talk
would be fine.
about it, then fine. And I've got details. I just wanted to know what does this mean or whatever.
Okay, and I did the same. So I'm in agreement that we got a lot to, a new learning curve here, obviously. And then the thing with me is I just hope this is going to be flexible in some way, that we get down the line and we see something we didn't recognize before, we can always get with Russell and get Oasis and get their input, and then just so that when we do meet and we have someone here that's throwing us something new, that we'll be able to adjust to that. So
I presume once the city council's approved it, though, that it'll take a change from the city council, any change has got to be made. So the more we can catch before
Correct.
going to, before it becomes a new ordinance, then that's going to save having the council to have to go, because they've got to, anything we move in the future after they passed it. My understanding is it's gonna have to be.
Okay.
So 2 points, Mr. Chairman, is that once the zoning ordinance is adopted, that any modification to the formal document would have to go through the procedure and practices of the zoning statute, which means it would have to come before you, right? And there would have to be public hearings, and then it would have to go before the city council. If I'm not mistaken, we have a secondary board of zoning appeals that if there is a particular hardship or variance, so to speak, counter to the actual ordinance, then that board is set up to facilitate that process.
Pretty much how it's running now, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody? Comments?
I have it, they look
Richard?
very nice.
Looks good to me. Very impressed with it.
Okay. All right, so we'll go back over this end. You got any questions?
I've just had a
And
few little things here and there.
before you start, did they get this copy? Okay, the ones with the pink highlighted, these are kind of my suggested edits.
The last thing in your packet.
Yeah, for your information, just, I changed some.
That's new?
I added some permitted uses, and Bill, it's the same thing I sent you. And then I added some special use provisions.
Oh,
Okay, on the back, yeah, okay.
Yep. Looks like this.
It was, I would also state that you give us a set of rules, and then we follow the rules. You know, we're not about our opinion anyway. We're doing what our job is. So I'm good with any changes they make, and if we bring it up for discussion today, that'll be fine. If we don't, then they make the change and we go with that. Anything?
Are you ready to start just questioning?
Yeah,
little
yes.
detail lines yet, or?
I am.
Okay.
We are.
If you, first one I had was on page number 1 of the 14 pages of the chart. First one I had was family personal care home, just what it is, and that's even after reading the definition. If you tell me how that situation would be, because the definition of family is, the blood relations and marriage and everything, and then under personal care home family, it says a dwelling, whether operated for profit or not, which undertakes through its ownership or management to provide or arrange for the provision of housing, food service, and one or more personal services for not more than 6 individuals who are not related to the owner or administrator by blood or marriage. So where does family, and then why is that like in every residential, well, every single family residential?
Which page are you on?
That's the first page, and it's the second item down.
Oh, okay.
Under residential on page
Yeah, I see
A1,
it.
exhibit A1.
I got it.
I'm just wasn't sure.
Mr. Sandy, I think the reason that you'll see them in the residential districts is because by the nature of it being family, is more conducive to, like, if you have an issue with your elderly parent, right? But they regulate that in terms of size, meaning no more than 6, so it does control how big the facility is. And then
But it does say who are not related.
Right, meaning it may be your mom, your dad, your mom, your dad, your mom, but you can't have 17, but the intent is within that district, if you wanted to live close to where someone was taking care of your parent, you could do that. And Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had to abide by fair housing on some of that stuff. And I think there's some federal protections, is that right?
Right, yeah, exactly. And let me just say that all the definitions are state definitions, so we're consistent with that, and what is most enforceable. Family personal care home, a synonym for that, another term is group home. And you can't discriminate against a group home. You can adopt regulations for safety measures, notifying the police and fire of a particular disability, so in the event of an emergency, they know what they're dealing with. There is, as Russell said, there's a limit on the number, and that is 6, and they have to be allowed in the single-family residential districts, just like if a traditional household were to come in for occupancy. So you can't discriminate against that. And that's why you have a P under the ES 1, 2, R1, and R2.
Okay.
If he's looking for another, I had a question about animal hospitals, vet clinics, and just wondered why they would not be considered in professional P1. I sent that to you, Oasis. It's one of my things I just saw there, and I thought, you know, that's sort of professional. But it's not.
The way I viewed it, Mr. Chairman, was professional, institutional was more people. Animals is more in sync with commercial, but I guess you could look at it either way.
Mm.
I wonder if they have a different copy than I have. We've got a P under PI for that use.
We have the January 26th copy.
I put a P, that's not on mine.
It must have come from Mr. Short.
Which
you
page
under commercial?
which page are we there?
Yeah.
Are we under commercial?
Yeah, I don't have it on mine.
Yeah, I think I had 24 or 25 other comments, and that's must have been one of them.
Okay.
So it's a special use in the C1, permitted use in the C2, and permitted use in the,
And what page are we on?
sorry, A2.
Huh?
A2.
Two.
A2.
And how far down? Let's see, I'm trying to
That's in
control.
the top half.
Animal
Animal shelter.
shelter, okay.
Still
shelter.
animal hospitals.
Animal hospitals has a P under PI.
Right. Wasn't that the question?
Which one were you questioning, Steve,
Oh,
to begin with?
animal hospitals, vet clinic.
And what page are you on there?
Oh, it is
A2.
there.
A2.
Well, did you add this after I sent all this?
Bill
Yeah, so
did.
you sent me
Yeah.
your suggestions.
So it's already added.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and then I emailed out the updated changes.
Okay. Fine. This was my, you know,
Oh, okay.
alpha list, and this is what I sent you, and then you made the changes if you thought it was
Bill made the changes, I sent it back
okay.
out, right?
If you think that workable, I mean, these were just suggestions, actually. You know, I'm no authority on this.
In
It
that
just seemed
small packet you have, there's the updated chart for you guys,
okay.
and as well as Russell's suggestions behind it.
Next thing I had was on page 3, A3. Just a question, what's a business incubator?
Sort of like shared uses, right? So you'll have like, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but like a facility where you can co-use, like it might have common printers or common
Okay,
faxes.
you can run an office or go in,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of governments do that.
So
We were.
startups
Yeah.
to where they might not have the capital to go out
Yeah.
and build their own, but it's kind of a conglomerate. Multiple people can go in one and they can be
Right.
successful.
Single reception, have a share a receptionist, share some equipment and stuff like that. Is
I
that
think a
what-
modern term is co-working.
Okay. And then, right under it, just business support office.
That's defined, if you go to definitions.
Okay, I missed that one. What, you remember what it was roughly?
I'm going to go to the section.
Because I don't see, I'm just looking into business, I don't. Doesn't matter, I mean, it's obviously, but I'm just wondering why it's only, once I know what it was, I then would wonder why it's not under C1 or under also downtown possibly. I'm not sure what it is.
I have a subcontractor that formats this document. That will be a business support service. Those kinds of services that most business owners choose to either hire staff to do it in-house or they farm it out under contract.
Question there, why only C2?
Which one?
On page A3, business support offices.
We also say that a lot of these terms come from the North American Industry Classification System, NAICS. So that's where a lot of the terms, there will be definitions in that. If we had someone who had a difference of opinion on what's business support.
And maybe, you know, I can't find it. It's different than the one I'm looking at, I guess, here. I'm looking at A3.
I had a
So
reason.
A2,
What you're looking at is Russell's suggestions. There's a green copy that looks like this.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at, I've got too many things here. I've got,
This green copy is the
this is what I'm
updated one.
using, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not sure, but is it the one there with, right before you go to commercial?
I've got
Do you have business support office?
C2.
Okay. See, yeah, and I'm just questioning why not also C1
Gotcha.
or downtown?
Well, C1 is supposed to be more conducive to neighborhood commercial, like almost a transitional buffer in between your single family and your general commercial district. And
Yeah. Question about that, is there an area of Thomaston now that you would say, just so I can get this in my mind about C1, is there an area that you would say presently is pretty much C1?
not really. but
I've noticed the new map doesn't have a lot of C1. It's got a little bit, a lot, but I'm
We're
trying
trying to
to,
create that
Yeah.
is more of a softer, not off of your main thoroughfares, kind of heading towards residential areas. And, you know, you're gonna have some grandfathered uses or legal non-conforming uses built in, but that over time, that's supposed to transition into a more cohesive buffer. That way you don't have a hard break between one land use type and something that's probably not compatible.
What's that parcel that we looked at recently?
Yeah, so one of the suggested changes, and what I've got my GIS guy doing, is to pull out an Excel spreadsheet for the general public, and we're gonna have some additional public hearings that will follow that shows, I think there's about 20 or so parcels that have actually changed zoning districts. And one of the proposed zoning changes that the city's wanting to make is the old 325 Martha Mill property. The one that's kind of back behind Ingles currently is heavy industrial, but is sitting right in the middle of an R2, right, which is single-family residential. So we're proposing to rezone that neighborhood commercial, where you can have that soft break between resident and an adjacent zoning district. And we will also, I've asked Mr. Bill to put in there a special use permit for multifamily residential and condominium townhouse. So that area would be in the middle of a residential tract where you could have neighborhood commercial type activities, but you could also have multifamily residential or townhouses built. So it's meant to not go single family resident, heavy industrial. It's more of a soft break.
If I could just add, a rule of thumb we used in assessing which areas could which businesses uses should be in C1 is if it had to attract customers from outside the neighborhood, it probably didn't belong in C1. And one example is jewelry store. I don't see how a jewelry store would be able to survive just on the market that's the walking distance around that particular C1 district.
Now, business support, as you said, that would be somebody like a contractor that helped you work on this. You know, you probably wouldn't have people, he wouldn't need a large parking lot or anything. He would
No.
probably be doing most of his business over the phone and
Right, that's
and
how
computer,
this,
right?
that's how this got done.
So I was wondering why he couldn't be C1.
Well,
I mean, it's not like it's a business where you're gonna have, probably unusual for him to have people come to his business anyway, right?
in this
More of a
age-
professional, yeah, whatever. Well, not professional. Okay, just a question. I had a few instances of wondering, for instance, of something that was in C1 and in downtown, why then it might not be in C2. For instance, on page A4, where there's diet and weight reducing centers, you know, you got it okayed and permitted in C1 and in downtown, but not in C2. So you couldn't have a diet and weight reducing center in a shopping center, right?
Well, my thought was to push niche markets into downtown and C1, right?
Okay, if there's a,
Everybody wants to go up on the north side, right? Everybody wants to be with all the traffic. But we're trying to redevelop downtown cores and community residential, and the way we do that is through land use and forcing them to go to a particular district.
similar then to like a dressmaking shop. You
Yes.
just try to make it, okay, understand that. I figured that some of these are where the city would like to actually direct some business.
Correct.
And what that goes to is the districts are exclusive rather than cumulative. Cumulative ordinances, the C1 usually allows everything in the residential districts. Then it's C2, and then on to industrial, and the industrial will allow anything allowed in the commercial districts, which would include residential. And so when you have a future land use map that specifies the land use for a particular area, the only way you can follow that with zoning is to have those tailored districts. If you have land that's supposed to be light industrial, but yet the ordinance allows C1 and all the uses in the residential district, you can't really shape that district because anything from a lesser impact zoning district could be approved. So you'll note that the residential, it's very specific, and the uses that are allowed in the C2 are not allowed in the M1. So that's the approach we've used to give us a better handle on shaping land use in the city.
Okay. Co-working space, was that almost the same thing that we talked about earlier, that,
Yes.
you know, you'd share, like, rent an office?
And I'll look at the NAICS codes for business supports offices and make sure that,
Because I do not see it in the definitions.
no, I didn't find it either,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure that's where it came from.
Okay.
And those are the codes used to, I guess, categorize for occupational tax licenses.
Usually, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the manual's about 1,000 pages, covers almost every activity.
We think we got something. And that's just to define what a certain business is, right?
Right, yes.
Okay. Special permit of craft studios, okayed in permitted in C1 in downtown, special in C2. Doesn't matter if that's again another case of trying to direct.
We prefer the niche to be
Yeah.
in a downtown neighborhood. However, if you want to be in a bigger zoning district, commercial, then you still can, but you got to go through the formal process.
Mhm. Something, data processing, hosting, and related services, permitted in C2, not in downtown or P1. Couldn't that kind of be according to the size of the scope of what you're trying to do. You know, if you were, a little small data processing operation, probably be fine in the downtown area.
One of the other things that I thought about too, and from a land use perspective, and maybe a soft base, and Bill can chime in or you can add, but when I envision the rejuvenation of downtown, do we really want to land use and permit a bunch of businesses that aren't open on Saturday and Sunday? What does that do for your life and your energy of your downtown? So some of the controlled uses for downtown, some of that was in the thought process.
Yeah, if you think about walkable downtowns, I mean, people are walking because there are shops and restaurants and those kinds of uses. And I think that's what Russell's addressing. And data processing, I mean, unless you work there, there'd be no reason to go in that building.
Page A5, just the definition of an agency.
What, sorry?
Agency. And is that like an insurance agency or what?
Very top page.
Top item on our print. Of course, it may vary according to changes you made, but just call agencies.
It's supposed to be alphabetical, so I'm going to go to the
On
top.
the very top page, top of the page.
Of A5.
A5.
Yeah, we must.
It's
Now,
not
mine
mine.
What's it under, residential, commercial?
It's under commercial.
There's no,
I don't have that. It's just the
Well,
word
maybe it went
agency.
away, yeah, which is good, I guess, if we don't know what it is.
It's just the one word, agency?
Agency. Just one word.
no word, no.
The only thing I didn't understand was in
Dan,
short your comments, you said rescue me. What was rescue me? That's, okay, it's the next one pops up, page A5. There's a break. See, that goes with the last
The one
row.
above it.
I think it's supposed to say employment agencies.
Oh, staffing,
Yeah, what I was gonna say.
okay, I see now what it's the continuation of a block.
That's what it is.
Okay,
services.
yep, okay, see that now.
That's the formatting, we can clean that.
Entertainment venues only in downtown, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, as proposed, yes.
And I probably need to look up entertainment venues, but just how extensive is that? Somebody wanted to come to town and build an additional theater, would that be entertainment or would that be,
Entertainment venues is like a small amphitheater. And event centers is more like an historic, well, it's probably a dwelling at one time. And they're usually architecturally significant and they're large and they can be turned into event centers. Banquet halls are a synonym for that. But both of those terms are defined because we talked about that extensively.
if they're defined, where it's not in the city's definition though, right? Maybe in that 1,000-page you got, but I don't see it in this one. Because, we only got a few pages of definitions.
And I think,
A
Bill,
lot.
one of the things I've asked, if we call out a use, we probably need to define it, which takes the ambiguity out for people, utilizing our zoning table and also our interpretation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see it. Does somebody else see it? Have I missed it?
I see that the event centers is defined, but I don't see entertainment.
Where is
venues.
event centers then?
Right up under the entertainment.
No, I meant the definition.
Oh, definition.
Let me get the page number for you. Page 15.
15.
Oh, entertainment venue is defined,
Okay, where is it?
page 15. Let me just read it.
Well, it's not on my 15.
Entertainment venue.
It is, hold on.
Venue and.
They have the full document. if you're looking at your binders are the original proposed draft. And then I laid out a copy. Oh, will you hand me that? That big thick one? Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
It's kind of short, if you don't mind, I'll read it.
Okay.
Entertainment venue, facility open to the public that offers music, dance, or theatrical performances. Such facilities are distinguished from event centers as concerns scale, with entertainment venues hosting larger audiences. These facilities do not typically serve food, although a limited range of alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages may be served.
Okay. That is helpful to have the one that,
Yeah, so we use that updated one. That's the one I emailed out, and I made copies for
Okay.
everyone today.
so several of the questions I had are because, I didn't understand what they were and they weren't in the definitions, so.
The event centers,
are
examples
in
of
the new
event
one,
centers are
Okay.
hosting anniversary parties, banquets, graduation parties, wedding receptions, business and retirement luncheons, and similar celebrations.
Talking about the C1 there, Russell, I'm on page A5 now, furniture and home furnishings. Why would, with what you're telling us about C1, why would you want
we
a
changed
furniture
that.
store? Has that been changed?
Didn't we change that one, Bill? I remember talking about that one.
Yeah, it's still shown as permitted in the
But
C1.
home furnishings could be a small, unique
be a little-
type shop.
Yeah. They're almost.
Yeah, I don't know if you had the P, I don't know where the P came from.
Yeah, I have it shown in C1, C2, and DT.
That's right,
That's what I've got in the one I'm working from, which may not be up to date.
yeah. And you wouldn't think a big chain or a big furniture company would want to come, locate in the neighborhood. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think.
the scale of the C1 neighborhood commercial districts is supposed to be on the order of a 6,000 square foot maximum, which is not a very big store.
So it could be home furnishings, not like Badcock, but it could be more of a niche.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I meant, yeah.
And
Almost.
that's kind of why we're thinking downtown,
Yeah.
maybe there's a specific type of home furnishing store that
Yeah.
was.
However, you need trucks to be able to get in and out. So you gotta remember, you gotta give them some space if, so I'm thinking it looks good to me, just like it is, but until we see a problem.
Page A6, insurance agencies, any particular reason why not in downtown?
I just think that we're seeing it goes back to the
Again, goes back to
The
maybe not open on
the
Saturdays.
atmosphere we're trying to create. I don't want my downtown core to be a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, if that's the destination we want to try to create for, walkability and shopping and retail and something to do on the weekend. Plenty of other zones.
Okay. Maybe, let's see, let me look at the new, what is a maker space?
Makerspace has got to be defined, and
I'm looking
can
at
imagine
the new definitions now to see if I can find what a maker space is.
I visited one in an in-town neighborhood in Atlanta. You walk in there, and there's a bunch of hand tools, power tools.
Oh,
They're very
okay.
expensive,
Yeah,
so I can go in there and rent
go
those.
in and you can rent the lathe or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly, that's what that is.
And some of these are not reality yet, but we're just trying to foresee things that may have been
Mhm.
popping up in other jurisdictions. If
Yeah.
you go on and create an appropriate class.
Could put it in C1 in downtown, but not C2.
It's more of a niche.
Okay.
The definition is a collaborative workspace which allows members access to fabrication tools similar to those in machine shops or other light industrial facilities for making, learning, creating, and sharing.
Okay, and then on page A7, mixed use, right 4 down on page 7, mixed use.
Mixed use is defined in the DT district.
Oh,
I'll have to go
okay.
up to that and just give me a second.
And what was it?
That'd be like a live works.
What?
Yeah, it's kind of a commingling of residential and soft commercial together.
So like an apartment
Loft
upstairs.
apartments with commercial on the bottom.
Okay.
Or you have, I don't know, apartments, and then there might be some ancillary commercial that kind of services that residential
Yeah.
use, and they're kind of all together.
Actually, if you look on page 58,
58?
it's, item LL, mixed use conforming to the following development standards, and those are 2 through 8.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Yep. Makes sense. News organizations, okay in C1 and C2, not in downtown. Again, what, not Saturday or Sunday open, not allowed in P1. That's all right. Special,
No,
now
they're
I'm
already,
back,
but,
I'm actually gonna get through here in a minute, I'm on A10 now.
it would be illegal.
Specialty food stores, not for on-premise consumption, is that like, people that cook and deliver,
Barbecue place?
barbecue, pizza delivery? What are specialty food stores not for on-premise consumption? I'm on page 18.
You can go there and buy whatever
You can buy it
meat
or,
you love, and
but
carry
you
it out.
just can't, you have to take it out, it's take out,
Right, otherwise it's a restaurant.
yeah.
Like a butcher shop or.
Yeah, sure, bakery.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What about some of these vegan stores that sell that type of stuff?
The only place that was permitted right now is downtown, right?
Right.
I could see it going in C1 maybe.
I kind of thought it could be C1 also. That was just a thought there. It would be a kind of a natural for what you're talking about, neighborhood. Now I'm on page A11. And artists, dance, and music schools and other educational facilities. I just wondered why not C2 there also.
I was thinking arts are more specific to like a district, like kind of like an arts district, and it's just more condensed in a DT.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hapeville has a dance school right in their little downtown, which, if you look at Hapeville 5 years ago, it's a total facelift. They've really,
If you limit it like to downtown, and some of these places, you've got 25 mamas there to pick up their kids at the same time, and when their class ends and the next class starts. I've delivered grandchildren to dance class, and there are cars everywhere, there are mamas everywhere, and might need to allow them also to put a place like that where there's a little more parking than you might have in downtown.
Yeah, I think we identified about 400 parking places before the addition of the city's lot. It's more about distance than it is about availability.
Okay. Page A12, places of worship. The only question there is maybe why not also C1? walking to the church on the corner, whatever.
What page was that on?
A12,
Institutional.
places of worship.
Yeah, those pages somehow aren't, we got that on A15.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's C2, DT, and PI.
And ES1, 2, R1, and R2.
Right.
And it's just not in C1, and I just wondered, you know, whether it might also, possibly a small, sure, of course, that might could be asked for a variance or something. They're pretty much, they're going to go where they can have a good bit of parking.
Institution.
I think that might have been related to scale, although storefront church is not, I mean, there are congregations of 10 people, some
Yeah.
places of worship.
Okay, just a thought. And then professional offices and medical clinics of physicians and medical practitioners. Only place we've got that. I mean, I know we got hospitals and the institutional, whatever, yeah, but a clinic only in P1.
I guess that's trying to determine land use. We're trying to push all medical services in this professional institutional, and then we have a medical district in town. So it's to reinforce that, I guess.
Yeah. What is the medical district?
It's not a zoning district, it's just the land use. It's, I think, it shows up on the future land use map.
It's more PI out there by the hospital, right?
Okay.
That kind of that corridor.
Okay. And again, okay, same question there with the, under institutional, I'm just about done there, under institutional with the hospital and public buildings and facilities. Industrial. Baking establishments and bottling and distribution plants, and the question is, why not M1s possibly also for them?
M2 is now light industrial, correct, Bill? No.
The existing ordinance, yes. But M2 is heavy.
N2's heavy in the new one, right?
I got it.
Yes.
What was the question again, Mr. Sand?
Baking establishments and bottling and distribution plants, allowed in M2, but not M1, whereas you got like apparel manufacturing is allowed in M1. Brewery allowed in M1. I didn't see that much difference there.
The M1 district, it's not all manufacturing and fabrication. It anticipates an office component within a warehouse building. So that's one distinction. The question of scale, bottling, distribution plants. Coca-Cola's operation in College Park is a pretty large operation.
Well, you know, you can have some pretty large apparel operating, well, not in the U.S. anymore, but it used to be able to, you know, brewery, you're just thinking along the small lines, right?
Well, we have microbrewery for downtown.
Yeah, but I was talking about brewery under industrial.
That's a pretty big operation usually.
Yeah,
And if not, it's a microbrewery, which is accommodated.
yeah. Let's see. I think my last one here, page A13, electrical transformer or distribution stations and gas regulator stations. We got them permitted in all the single-family residential, but nowhere else, not even manufacturing. You know, and a lot of times you need a substation close to any kind of manufacturing operation of much size.
Those are supposed to be located where the surrounding uses require that service. And I actually got that in the existing ordinance. And
What page are you on? I can't.
A13. A13, electrical transformer or distribution stations and gas regulator stations, which we were permitted them in all the single-family zones, 4 of them, but nowhere else, including the manufacturing.
I understood that from the existing ordinance to be facilities that are necessary for subdivision development. Now, whether they're necessary,
Well, you build a plant of much size and you're gonna need a substation.
I'll have to look at it because the existing ordinance, I'm pretty sure, does not go beyond residential development.
But they may consider it part of the manufacturing operation, I don't know, you know, but you build, we ever get an industry somewhere of much size, and they're Georgia Power or the city or whoever is gonna serve it is going to probably need a substation close by.
Is this just for principal use, Doug? Or would this be like on property bill? I can review that. I probably need to read that section.
Just a thought.
I should point out that, I don't know if y'all realize it, but you can click on the section number in this uses table and it'll take you back to
Oh, okay,
that section.
that's good.
So that's what I'm looking at here. And
What does it say?
well, it's A through D. Building and structures shall be placed a minimum of 30 feet from any non-residential zoning district or use, or a minimum of 50 feet from any residential zoning district or use. It doesn't really help much. Talks about a buffer, no vehicles or equipment should be stored on premises. I'll dig into that with Russell a little deeper to see why the existing ordinance doesn't have that use beyond the residential districts, and is it a use that's absolutely necessary? And, you know, I tend to agree with what you're saying.
They want to even make those special use permits, Bill. I mean, if somebody's going to put in a gas regulator station.
You would want to sort of have some control over that, wouldn't you?
Okay.
And might not necessarily want it to be in a single family neighborhood. And I guess the last thing I had was warehousing and the last page, 14, warehousing and wholesaling operations. Why is that M1 only and not also M2? Because you can get a pretty good sized warehouse.
M1's heavy. Right? No,
Not
that's
now, not now.
Yeah, I keep getting confused.
Wouldn't, a good size warehousing operation I'd rather have an M2 than M1.
Right.
I'm just going back to what I said earlier about the office component being part of the warehousing operation, and you compare it to heavy industry that, you know, it's a manufacturing plant, like a car plant. I mean, there's really no comparison there. If you're going to encourage employment, like a lot of facilities don't have many people working there, and the stronger we can get the office component, the better for employment, at least.
Okay, well, anyway. That's all I understand. The other things I understand, we're just trying to direct a lot of direct growth in a certain area. So overall, I think it's wonderful.
I got another question, two things actually, and I missed one thing that you mentioned, and I think we were going to add, and you helped me remember what that was, but food trucks, they're not allowed in downtown. But if you ever have a big venue and you got, I mean, these things are better than restaurants sometimes. You know, if you allow somebody to come into downtown and just park off the square and to catch some of the crowd, to take, you know, some of the pressure off the downtown, direct the courthouse area. You know, what do you think about that, Russell?
Well, it can be seen as a competing interest, meaning if I'm going to open a restaurant downtown, I'm going to buy a building, I'm going to pay property taxes.
I get that.
I'm going to pay utilities, or you're going to bring in the same barbecue and you're not going to have to pay for a building. And
License.
Sir?
License and.
Do have to be
You still have to
licensed,
get a
right?
license, but it's almost meant.
Minor compared to,
It's meant to be a protection for somebody who wants to invest in that downtown area.
All right, so in the park, each year we have events there.
Yeah, so those are vendors, and I think they're tied to special event permits. So like if you were going to do a special event, like the Chamber of Commerce was going to do a special event, or the city was going to do a special event, then it can be permitted through a special event, but it's not a 365.
And that would be more conducive to people coming in from outside.
Right.
Yeah, I got you. And then the other thing was entertainment venues. We went over this before, but that's in downtown only. But you kind of crowded there if you've got I don't know, you need special effects. Just asking, just thinking outside a little bit about what we would do in the event that we could not host an entertainment venue in downtown. What would
I'd put it in C2 as a special use.
you could do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as I said in the beginning, if we can be flexible, you know, and allow some of this, because we're gonna see it eventually, probably. Okay.
Those entertainment venues?
Yeah.
Thanks.
You know, if, and I really don't know what all comes under that use. I mean, concerts you can think of, and, you know, I don't know what else off the top of my head.
Could be an art show, artwork.
Yeah. So if you had a lot of other things going on and you had that coincided, I'm just thinking it may need a little more space. We haven't gotten that big yet, but I think some of these towns around Sonoy, they host a lot of different kind of events. Just a thought to kind of be ready if it does come to pass.
Are you looking to have it in the C2?
Yeah, C2 is.
Yeah, I get, that's what I noted.
Okay.
Got it.
So you'll look at that.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Anybody got any questions? Anybody? Richard?
Well, electric cars come in, we're getting these, where they charge these cars, is that gonna be in anything? Can somebody just run a place up and put a, cause it's coming, where you can get the cars charged.
Richard, I've thought about that, and that's a good point. But I also thought by the time we get
We'll be
in
on
Thomaston, by the time we get to that point where there are more electric cars than there are
Yeah.
gasoline, they'll have a way to recharge that battery as you drive down the road. I mean, yeah, I think.
Well, I've seen we were placing, they had them coming out
Yeah.
cords coming out, and I think somebody will come up with something saying, free charge, a charge place like a gas station or
But
something.
that would be like a C2, wouldn't it, Russell? If you have
Probably
charging
wherever
stations?
a fueling station would be permitted, I
Yeah.
think you could slip
That's
it
where
in
it
there.
goes.
Yeah.
But I have talked with Taylor, our economic development coordinator, and Neil is our electric superintendent, and from an economic development marketing standpoint, if you own an electric vehicle, apparently there's maps, like you can pull up on an app, so you.
Find the charging station.
Kind of plan,
Mm-hmm.
and to get on that map, I'm considering putting probably 2 somewhere in the city. Maybe one at Greatest Generation Park and somewhere, so that we can get on the map, so somebody that otherwise might bypass Thomaston,
Yeah.
right, they know they can fuel their
Might
car
stop
here.
here.
So
Yep.
we're looking at deploying possibly 2 of those somewhere in the city. And I
Good.
think it's one of these where other cities, they do it, you know, it's free for a while until people start coming,
Yeah.
and then they have a way where you can, you know, you put
Yeah.
your credit card in and pay for it that way. So we're looking at that.
Okay. So, in order to move along here, sign ordinances, we were talking about this the other day, and you, Sandy and I were also talking about the fact that we didn't know if what you told me that hadn't changed at all, was that from the last meeting or from the original ordinance, the city code?
No, from the last meeting, from the
Okay.
proposed
That's the way
draft.
that's the way I understood.
And then-
There'd been no change there.
and then Bill,
But it's a
did
big
you
change
see-
from the past,
Right.
present,
Did
the
you
present
send me
ordinance.
an email with one change in the sign ordinance? Let me look.
I had proposed with, what's that, the city attorney that, well, her understanding is that you can't regulate political signs at all.
That's the email I'm talking about, yeah.
You know, so what I'm thinking, and I mentioned it to her, I don't have a decision, but maximum of 5 stake signs per year, I mean, throughout the year on residential property. To me, you know, as I wrote in an email, some people are going to put all 4 or 5 signs out there, but most people are not going to have any sign, unless they get a renovation going on or a sale sign. But Russell, Deanna and I had an email back and forth on political signs, and given what was said about you can't regulate them, I had proposed the maximum of 5 stake signs throughout the year, realizing that most people are not going to have a stake sign, and things aren't free. What would be the purpose of a stake sign? But a maximum of 5, I think.
Where are you talking about? The ones that will just stick in the ground?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted 0.
I'm for it.
So what was the question, Bill?
Well, the only thing that we had to talk about on the sign ordinance, as I recall, was the regulation of political signs. We had 10, up to 10 during the election period. And then,
So I think on political signs, I don't know that you can regulate that, can you?
no, what I'm saying is, let's come up with a reasonable number. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's not 5. I don't think it's 10, but that's too many.
Are you talking about political or non-political?
You can't really, I'm just talking about stake signs. We don't know what they say.
What I would do, honestly, is I would count your temporary stake signs as part of your cumulative aggregate for the allowable amount that you have on your property, not to exceed 5. So if on your building you're allowed 180 square feet, and you've got 180 square feet, you get 0 stake signs. But if you've got 150, then you've got 10 square feet to play with, and then you can parse that out, but no more than 5. Can we do that, Bill?
It sounds like you're talking about a non-residential property. Right?
Or you're talking about residential properties?
Yes. Now, what we talked about was 1 stake sign per 100 feet of frontage. So if you have a corner lot and you have 150 feet of frontage, you have 2 stake signs on the commercial property.
Okay, so you already got the commercial worked out. We're just talking about residential.
Yeah.
who's gonna be the counter and the recorder of all of this?
John Baxter.
All right.
Normally it's a content dispute, right? You're a Biden fan, you're a Trump fan, and you put something nasty out about Trump, and you put something nasty out about Biden, and they call John, and they want John to go out and do something about it. Well, it's political speech, and there's not really anything we can do about it. So normally we don't get called out because there's a lot of just signs in people's residential yards. So whatever y'all think. I mean, I don't see what.
I like zero also, but as far as non-political, I realize we can't, I like zero as far as political, but I know we can't do anything about that. But, you know, what, you can put something out supporting your school, supporting, you know, my daughter's an honor student at Upson Lee, or whatever, you know.
Yard sale on Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yard
I'd say
sale.
5, but I would put a provision in there that they almost need to be temporary in nature unless they're permittable. Because what I'm gonna get and what he's gonna get is Troy's gonna have a yard sale on Saturday. And Richard and Robert and Steve and Sandy are his neighbors. And he's gonna stick a sign up in each one of them yards directing you to Troy's yard sale. Well, they're gonna forget to take them down for about 6 months, right? And they're gonna be there for 7 months until the next time he decides he wanna have a yard sale. And then I've got all these signs that are just everywhere.
So there'd be a time limit, like you could have for 30 days.
Something like that. That's what I'm thinking. You can't do that on political signs, though. I don't think you can regulate time or content on political signs, but directional signs or whatnot probably should be permitted. But then I'm thinking about,
Somebody's gonna put up a religious sign.
or Sandy has, he get him a brand new security system in his house, and they want to put the little watch guard thing out. This house is powered by Sandy's
Protected by,
security system. Right, we should probably allow that.
But the only thing we can allow is stake sign. We can't allow a sign that says ADT, you know, to the exclusion of other messages. I just think we need to come up with a reasonable number to have a reasonable opportunity to get my message across to the public by sticking a sign out. And like you said, 3 may be that number, 5 may be that number. I don't think 7's that number, it's too many. You get clutter in the neighborhood.
And you got the situation with contractors, somebody just put you on a new roof and they put a sign out, you know.
Forever.
Yeah, for a long, of course, you can take it up yourself pretty quickly, but still.
How about 3?
I'm good with 3. Because if we give it an election period and it's a political sign, and we don't know it's a political sign because we're not supposed to read it to determine what the message is. I'm good with 3.
Yeah. It's a plea.
Do we have a time frame when you put the signs out to pick them up?
Yeah.
I guess
A
if
frame
it's
because-
temporary sign.
Well, he's just saying you get 3 in perpetuity, right, Bill?
Yes.
So on your lot at your house, you can have 3 stake signs. period.
Okay.
Regardless of how long they're out there.
I think they still have to fall within the prohibited sign, means they have to be in good repair,
Right.
right, and all that.
Sure.
And then I believe in the sign ordinance, there is a difference between temporary signs and permanent signs. And the temporary, I think, was 30 days. I remember that day.
You have enough time in your week to go out there and monitor.
How long?
Oh, I just hit them up.
All right, so it's going to be limit of 3. 1 per quarter, I mean,
I just say 3.
okay, good, I like that. It's, all you gotta do is go by and count them, there's 5, you just pull 2 and throw them in the bag.
Well, see, here's what you're gonna get into. Let's say I've got 3 signs, and then I've got a 4th sign that says, Blue Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter. That's a political sign.
We'll just count it as a state sign. If it's more than 3,
Yeah, but you can't regulate
Political signs.
political signs.
I'm not regulating. That's a state sign. I don't know what it says. It's a state sign, you get 3. You got 4,
Let's say-
one
let's say-
down.
I've got 4 Blue Lives Matter state signs.
You got too many.
I think that's political speech. I don't know that you can regulate that.
How do we know it's-
Maybe,
how
I
do
don't
we-
know,
but how
that's
do
a
we-
lawyer question.
It is. But anyway, how do we know it's a political sign unless we've read it?
Well, we're gonna read it.
It doesn't matter what it says. Could be somebody running for the moon. Well, anyway, we'll go with the end.
How about we'll just say you get 3 signs, and when it's campaign season, we're just gonna let it go, and then we'll deal with it after that.
Yeah, I've been told that,
Because we'll be chasing that forever.
yeah, and the downside of that is that the candidate that you take down his signs wins. And then sometimes heads roll. And that's not unrealistic. I've seen it.
We're not gonna take down anybody's campaign sign during.
Yeah, I think that's the best policy. That's what I'm saying.
We
After
just-
election.
Now, if they're on the right of way or they're attached to a utility pole or something like that, then normally what we do is we'll pick them up, we'll take them down to Public Works, and then we'll call the party and say, hey, if you want to come get your campaign sign, you can. This is why we took it up. We don't ever throw them in the trash or anything like that.
I happen to have had an office between the police department and the court and city hall. I had more signs on my little dinky property. It's more than 50. I took pictures of them. Of course, I didn't take any of them down because you don't want to get on the bad side of who might have won that election. But it was
Okay,
remarkable.
so let's just move along here. Is there anything else we need to address?
To one more point on the political signs and
Okay.
the state signs, if I've got 3 elected officials running for office and each of them have 2 challengers, that's 9 signs. I'm not gonna pick and choose, like, because a lot of people will say, well, if I'm gonna let you, I'm gonna let you, I'm gonna let you, so we just kind of political signs during elections.
Yeah, I think that's the best policy.
And the wording of our definitions of a temporary sign says that temporary signs shall not include state signs.
Right. Yeah, yeah, they're broken up. There's 3 categories of signs. I don't know if you all have the patience, but I've got a presentation that I was going to make on the things we didn't cover last time.
And one other thing, in what all I have seen, I've talked with Oasis about that we don't have a zoning board in the new ordinance.
Yeah, that's a miscommunication. I'll be working on that this week.
Okay. I was gonna say, we had just voted ourselves out of, once we vote here, and I don't know how I'm gonna do without the compensation that I'm gonna be missing.
Get 1 complimentary free pen.
Now, I tell you what,
Only one?
you can just show up at Russell's office and pour yourself a cup of coffee and sit there because you don't have anything else to do.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if you'll indulge me, I assume that we're going to have some of the same people and maybe more people come, and I just wanted to mention what we already have covered quickly. There was only one true single-family residential district in the existing ordinance. It was R1. Everything else included, the R2 through R6 included multifamily apartments, duplexes, townhouses. So now we have, because it's in the subdivision regulations, that the state subdivision, there's 2 classes, so those are the 1 acre and the 2 acre minimum lot size, which is in a state lot, and that'll be further out from the town center. And then R1 and R2 are both exclusively single-family detached with the same minimum lot area and minimum floor area. We've expanded the definitions section considerably. Administrative authority for the city manager. If he has an application for a use that's not listed on the uses table, but it's similar in impact and character to that listed use, city manager has the authority to approve that unlisted use. There's flexibility in the parking ratios. We have minimums and maximums, and that's all about having less impervious surface and impacts on your stormwater system. Nonconformance in buildings, lots, and uses is addressed. Abandonment is defined. Uses listed in the uses table are also in each zoning district for convenience. And we have development standards not in the existing ordinance in Article 5 of the draft ordinance that assigns development standards to over 40 specific uses. And this is new stuff, and I'll try to talk fast in the interest of your time. But we have a section that was introduced, it's Article 6, and it's Architectural Design Standards. If you wondered what the geography was, because I think this came up last time, the DT Downtown Zoning District is identical to the geography of the Downtown Development Authority.
Historic district.
Right. The new construction, which includes...
Downtown is the exact same as historical district. Okay.
So the new construction, which includes additions, in the downtown district have to be consistent with the several architectural styles represented in the geography of the Downtown Development Authority map. New construction in the downtown district must be compatible with the scale, bulk, massing, and building height, including first floor building height, characterizing properties in the downtown district. Elements such as cornices, transom, bulkheads, canopies, and fenestration must be incorporated into building design. New development must be consistent with the lot configuration as concerns such factors as placement of the building on the lot, location of on-site parking, setbacks, courtyards, and other open space, landscaping and pedestrian access found on properties within the downtown district. The exterior finish materials have been introduced, the standards rather, and that's full-size brick, natural wood, natural stone, cement deposit stone, true hard coat stucco, and fibrous cement siding, which is known as hardy board. Synthetic finishes, and a lot of people for years were against dry-it because of the problems they have with that. But you may be surprised to hear that Atlantic Station up in Atlanta, much of those buildings are not true stucco. They are a product called dry-fit. The dry-fit would be allowed in the draft ordinance only if it conforms with the installation standards of the industry. In non-residential districts, the use of contrasting exterior finish materials is required to add visual interest. Mix of siding types to be consistent and proportional on all building elevations, except for an exemption for C2, M1, and M2 properties, which may have truck bays, and they're not going to benefit really from those facade treatments. There currently are no standards, no architectural standards in residential districts. The ES1, ES2, R1, and R2 would be identical to the downtown district, except that vinyl siding would be allowed, provided it had a nominal thickness of 0.04 inches and installed according to manufacturer's specifications. Metal siding, concrete blocks, synthetic stucco, plywood, T111s, wood siding, masonite particle board, non-cement composite board is prohibited. I'm going to skip through a lot of this. There is a table 10.1. The existing ordinance mentions buffers, but it is not as specific as this table is. So on the left-hand column, you have your zoning district and uses, and then going across the top is what, and this is on page, I'm not sure what page. not sure why I'm not being able to locate that table. Just give me another minute, and if I don't have it, I'll skip it. I'm not sure what happened with that. But I'll just read from the table quickly. If you're proposing an industrial use next to a single-family use, buffers needs to be 40 feet in width, which is a pretty substantial buffer. You can just about get an opaque buffer with 40 feet. There's a Chapter 71, trees, shrubs, and other plants in the city code, and we've augmented that, reinforced it, and have a list of about 150 approved tree species. There's an exceptions section that accommodates development that's already on the ground and new construction, and they're designed to encourage residential infill. You can reduce your minimum floor area if the floor area of dwellings on developed lots within 4 lots adjoining the lot in question, including lots across public streets. So that would be the new minimum floor area for those particular scattered sites that are in the neighborhood that have, for some reason, not been developed. It introduces at section 8.12, a maximum floor area. Maximum floor area equal to 150% of the actual floor area of dwellings within 400 feet of the lot proposed for development. That would mean that 1.5 times, if you have someone that's, the lots are 1,000 square feet, you could only go in there with 1,500 relative to that lot's floor area. Did you understand that? It's to try to control scale so that you're not, the minimum floor areas in the ordinance may not be what's on the ground. So if you don't have an accommodation for reflecting what's on the ground as an average floor area, builders would come in and have to build over the market, and the development might be out of scale with existing development. Woodward Academy in College Park drew many affluent families to College Park. They were buying lots with 1,200 square foot brick bungalows, which were contributing structures to the historic district designation. And there's a tipping point. And they were, one family came in and built a 6,000 square foot structure. And following that, an ordinance was drafted that would prohibit that in the future. So that's what that's about. There's a transitional height plane that's introduced in the ordinance under exceptions to height limits. And this came up recently with a hotel that's proposed and sought a variance. The new ordinance has a number of conditions under which a variance could be considered, and one of them is if it obeys a transitional height plane. Basically what that is after the approved height, any construction could be 35 feet in Thomaston. For the depth of the front yard, and that's the setback, shall be increased 1 foot for every 2 feet of building height above 35 feet. So that would be a condition of approval going forward.
So if it gets taller, it's got to move back.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but only above the maximum height of 35 feet. It would step back. There are some limits on access. Any non-residential lot having a street frontage of 300 feet or less shall be limited to a maximum of 1 driveway that accommodates entry and exit to the lot. Additional entrance and exit drive for lots having a frontage in excess of 300 feet on the single street for such access which must be approved by the building official and the chief of police of the necessity of such access. If a property has in excess of 600 feet, a second driveway would be allowed. There's provision for consolidation of access drives, and normally on commercial corridors, you've got a curb cut every 50 feet, and it really makes it difficult to negotiate efficiently down a 4-lane like we have here on 19. So this would trigger a consolidation of access drives. If you have 2 access drives on one frontage, you come in for a building permit for building renovation or parking lot resurfacing, you'd have to eliminate one of those access drives. And if someone, people figure out a way of getting around regulations. So I'm not going to do 50% of my resurfacing the parking lot. I'm going to wait till next year and I'll do it then. So there's provision that says that permits for a subsequent building or building renovation or parking lot resurfacing following the effective date of this ordinance shall not be granted for a period of 2 years from the date of issuance of the initial building or resurfacing permit. I don't think anyone's going to phase their building construction, and they're probably not going to phase their resurfacing of the parking lot because it just doesn't make economic sense. So that should be able to enforce the consolidation. There's a thing planners like to call Inter-Parcel Access, and that just means that on a 4-lane like 19 here, when you get into Chick-fil-A and you decide, oh, I want to go to Wendy's, if there's no Inter-Parcel Access, then you're getting back out on the 4-lane. You're going up to the next business, and it doesn't have to be the immediate location. It could be up the street, maybe a 1/10 of a mile. I think Bullsboro and Noonan has this, where there's a network of local streets off the 4-lane, and they connect all of the businesses. Some businesses object because they think, oh, the customers of that business are going to use my parking, but that's not allowed, and there has to be a reciprocal easement agreement between the owners of the property. So Inter-Parcel Access is intended to reduce traffic congestion and improve customer convenience. And that will be certainly a requirement on new construction. And I'm not sure if I don't know if we can get that through permits of new construction to get that, building addition or repaving. I'm not sure we can tie that to Inter-Parcel Access. Last 4 topics quickly. I mentioned that we address pretty considerable treatment, non-conformance, and that's for the non-conforming buildings, non-conforming lots, or non-conforming uses. Public notice and hearing procedures, they were really covered pretty adequately in the existing ordinance. That has to do with state zoning procedures law, where you have to advertise 15 days before a public hearing, posting of signs. There's a provision for board training, which would be the Commission and the Board of Appeals. It's usually annual. And I've introduced the standards of review for zoning decisions. It's the criteria by which this body and mayor and council would evaluate applications for rezonings for special uses. And there are criteria for rezonings, for special uses, for text amendments to the ordinance, and for amendments to the character area map adopted in the comprehensive plan. Thanks for your patience. I know that was a lot after an hour of review. Appreciate it.
We may have to utilize that someday. Never know. John Baxter will be the one out there taking names. All right, so discussion of the new zoning and the sign ordinances. Have we covered everything, Bill? Pretty much. And what we don't grasp, it's already written into the code, and I'm sure the city, the attorneys, you, everybody else has pretty much gone over it, including our suggestions.
What changed in the procedure from the time a person gets request a zoning change, as far as hearings and time periods and all? What Anything change there?
I don't think there's been any substantial change in that because the existing ordinance complies with the zoning procedures law.
We just went to two public hearings.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought we had.
Yeah.
There had been some sort of change there.
Mhm.
Two
Yeah.
public hearings.
So I believe it was only one before,
Right.
but we changed it to two public hearings if it regards to zoning.
And who will
Is that
attend
both
those
with the
hearings?
city- Is that both city council
So
hearings?
the public hearings don't have to be held at a city council meeting, but it's convenient, so we do it at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
So February 1st is the upcoming Tuesday meeting. At the beginning of, on the agenda, you'll see public hearing for sign and zone ordinance and the
Okay.
update of the zoning map.
So if someone is wanting to change their zoning and it gets to the city council, there is a zoning hearing at one city council meeting, and then it would require a zoning hearing at the following.
Well, there's the first and second reading.
Right.
It's in the ordinance now. I mean, in the draft.
But there's nothing that ties that to the formal council meeting, that's just for mere convenience. So
Right.
we'll have one on a Friday at noon, and then we'll have one at a council meeting at 6 before their 7 o'clock meeting.
We just try to make it convenient so
And
people.
this
will
zoning
want
board
to-
is not considered a public hearing.
Correct. You could advertise it at one, but I think the way the procedure works is the public hearing follows this meeting. So once you meet, then the two hearings will be set, and then the formal adoption by
Right.
the council.
They'll be presented to this board prior to public hearings.
All right, any other questions, comments, additions? Okay, well, I'm suppose that we're to vote to approve the new zoning and sign ordinances. Is that what you would think? Okay, so, all heard and.
With the change, we're
With the
voting to
change,
do it
yes.
with the change.
Yeah, that should be in the motion, that should be in the
And that
motion.
change also includes putting this zoning board back in the new ordinance, right?
Correct. And I can email that, I'm happy to email that back out once we get that drafted.
All right, so I will ask for a motion on the,
What,
The
have
adoption
you discussed the
authorization.
map? Is there anything we need to know about before, or well, or we do, okay, we hadn't gotten the map yet, have we?
We're gonna do that later,
Okay.
yeah. This is just the,
Map is a part of the zoning ordinance, but I think it's fine to discuss under two.
It's discussed under another item on the agenda, you're right.
Right.
Yeah, I have them broken down.
okay.
Sign the zone ordinance and then that.
So, motion, anybody?
Make a motion that all the new changes and the, board, all of that. I got confused now.
Zoning commission?
Yeah, kind of, the commission and all that.
That we adopt the
That
new
we
zoning
adopt
and
the
sign
sign
ordinances
ordinance,
with the
sign
changes we
ordinances we
discussed
said.
today. Does that
Right,
sound
right.
okay? Okay.
Right.
All right. So, Troy, motion to adopt the new zoning and sign ordinances that we discussed today, to authorize that. Got a motion, I have a second. Richard, second. Okay, let's vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Okay. The authorization of the new zoning map. And we are, I've been told, Oasis, I think we discussed this, that this is all right to just glance at, but what are we getting as a new zoning map? What?
So, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the only thing that's not on here are the conditional zones.
So there's, obviously the designations changed, right? We now have a DT, we have a community neighborhood, heavy industrial, it used to be M1, it's now M2, so those were inverted. We talked about the C1 designation that changed. I have a publication coming this weekend that I'm going to email out next week that talks about the 20 parcels that actually changed. And I have one more recommendation change based on the map you have, Bill, and I think we discussed it's a parcel on about Center City, just north of Poplar Drive on the west side of the city, where everything to the south, where Crown Technology is zoned, think light industrial. There's 2 parcels, I believe, north of Poplar Drive on the western side where it intersects. I guess that's the Hannes Mill, maybe. Those are currently zoned M2, and I don't know that that's cohesive with the surrounding land use. My preference would be to keep everything M2 south of Poplar Drive, and for those parcels to the north, that one C2 use that I believe is a doctor's office be left alone, but that those other parcels that are currently zoned M2.
I believe it's okay, the new one would be M1, right?
Yeah, light industrial, I'm sorry. So they're purple on your map.
Yes.
It's
They're
light
dark,
industrial.
yeah. Mhm.
I don't know that really fits in with the corridor. I would prefer either a R1, R2, or maybe even a C2 that coincides with that one little parcel there on the corner.
That's across from Coggins Funeral Home, right? And then sort of back of the the pediatrics.
That's it.
And it goes down to about where the road goes into the Silvertown Ballpark, right?
Correct. Can I come up there? I think you're on the right spot. It's just to me.
That right there, right?
Yeah, see, you've got
Isn't that Coggins?
Yeah, so you've got,
Crystal Drive?
yeah, you got commercial here.
Yeah.
This is a PUD, and all this is R1, and then you've just got this industrial block right
And the only
there.
reason that's quote commercial, I guess, is the funeral home and the cemetery, right?
Yeah, so
So
I
it's
would
not-
either go C2 or R1. Would-
Now,
And
right
I would
behind
use-
it, aren't those,
Yeah, those are little houses in there.
yeah, that's
right?
those condominiums, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with, of course, we haven't used our new condominium and whatever anywhere, have we?
Right, you could make it that, but see, this is on PUD, which is, PUD is more of a reactive zoning than a front end. So PUD, they normally want some variances, tighter lot sizes or mixed use, and they actually submit a plan. I just wanted to use Poplar Drive as the break between industrial and commercial.
But I don't think that ought to be manufacturing, up there.
Well, that was my thought too.
Yeah.
I don't know if we mentioned or not, that in the interest of attracting development, the townhouse condominium and multifamily are introduced as permitted uses in the C1 neighborhood commercial, because you get a good transition. Little 5 points in Atlanta, there are apartments that adjoin to the rear businesses that are out on the main drag, and then it transitions even further into a single-family detached. So that allows for transition. It also, as I said, could attract investment in those the uses in those 2 districts, the RCT and the MR, will be permitted in the new downtown district as well.
And what are those 2 parcels now zoned
Industrial.
presently?
Industrial,
The
light,
they're light industrial.
M1s and 2s confused.
I mean, I see now that the new map shows them as light industrial, but presently,
That's
are
their
they
current.
heavy in?
That's their current zoning.
What's their current, okay.
And these 11 by 17 maps, I know they're small and kind of difficult to read. This is just what our copier at the city manager's office can do. We're expected to be able to get, a large print copy of that, and that's what I would bring down to a meeting if we had a rezoning request or something like that.
Is there a zoning map that the public or we as as members can access on a computer that we can
Yes.
zoom out and look at?
Yes.
So they're uploaded to the website, and Deanne or the city attorney wanted some additional language in the notice. So we're looking at an additional public hearing on February 22nd, and then an additional public hearing on February the 25th. So we're gonna probably have 4. So that'll give us plenty of time. Push the map out there, you'll get a copy. It's already up on the city's website, but we need to tweak some things in our notes.
So in the motion, do we need to vote on this today, the map, with the proposed changes? Only that you understand at this point in
I
time.
don't think you would on the actual map. It is part of the ordinance. So probably the motion would be to accept the draft ordinance as presented with the changes suggested at the meeting, and then punt on the map, because the map's not finalized, it's built.
We still have conditions.
You have to get the conditional zones on there.
So everything but the map.
So all the conditional zoning that we have done in recent years will show up, that will still be tagged on all those properties?
With a caveat. Caveat is all the ones we could find.
Yeah, right.
Some of them that were done in the 80s.
No,
But this is an improvement because in the past, all you had was a C on the property. And you had no idea what those conditions were. So conditions are going to be by ordinance number and date. And that ordinance will be in the city clerk's files. And then each time you have a new zoning that's conditional, that will be recorded in that table. But when you re-adopt the official zoning at some future public hearing, then those ordinances they're reflected in the change. So the purpose of the table at that point would be to record any such future conditional zonings.
is that land off of Peach Belt that's in the city to the west? Is that estate subdivision class 2, or is that,
It's going to be a state,
okay,
and that's by virtue of lot size.
okay. I see it's blue, but I
It's
couldn't tell for
close.
sure whether that was gonna be a state or whether, I didn't think it was gonna be heavy industrial.
And although you don't have the luxury of the digital map, but the digital map, when we zoom in, it actually has the designation on there. It's just, you can't show it, parcels are too small on it.
And there's also a layer for addresses, right?
Yeah, and we have an address layer.
You said the 22nd and the 25th?
Yeah, so 22, 25, and then vote on 3-1.
So we need to vote to accept the draft, the proposed zoning map. What do you mean with, because we don't know what the changes are,
Right.
obviously.
So what I would do in light of the addition of public hearings, and we have till March 1st, and I can probably handle it without Bill, and it shouldn't take long. I can run you through the proposed changes on the map. So then your motion at that point would be consideration for the council to adopt as presented and considered. And by that time, we'll have all these changes made, run through the map, and it's done. And I apologize, I mean, it's a major undertaking.
Yeah.
This whole project has been amazing to me that you have done this.
For a year and trying to mesh 50 years worth of zoning into a new document and a new map, there's been some hurdles.
So would we come back and meet again to vote on the map?
I think formally you would have to, since it's considered in the draft.
Yeah. So we don't even need to bring it up for discussion or,
It's tabled then to the,
Unless there's specific parcels on there you have questions about.
not until you finish it.
Well, there's not gonna be any, I only got like 1 or 2 changes.
Right, okay. Well, we
should
understand
we look
that.
at it kind of and see if anything jumps out at us? It might help you.
Sure.
And this map has been emailed out, so if you guys wanna, it's probably easier to zoom in on the computer, but if you guys see anything, feel free to send me an email or Russell an email.
The cemetery's in the historic district, is that correct, Glenwood?
I believe
Yes,
so.
Is that right?
it is. In the building right here we're sitting in.
And then that kind of orange color on the, around going, still clustering around downtown is that new C1, is that right?
Commercial neighborhood, yeah.
Do you see, I mean, there are more uses of C2 than anything that we have. So do you see a limit to what we can do in that designated zone? Or do you see us expanding that zone in the
Which
future?
C1?
C2. I'll C1 and C2, both.
So I would look at land use to push development where you're currently undeveloped, right? With
Mhm.
vacancies, downtown, storefronts.
Right.
That's why I wanted the land use to try to push those that might have gone north side or south side. Well, now
Mhm.
the only place you can go is, but yeah, it's gotta be a fluid map. You know, if Atlanta continues to grow south and, you know, Henry County folks and Fayetteville County folks and retail and commercial starts developing and you get more annexations, we're gonna have to be fluid in our approach.
Okay.
You know, what worked in 1965 is not working in 2021, so we're gonna have to grow with it. This is just kind of our best shot based on where we think we are and what we think we might be.
So, all right, you all heard what he said. And if you want to
The
put this off until we meet again, you got a question? Go
The
ahead.
land behind the Crystal Hill Cemetery and all, the one that is it R2? No, or is it, what is that, right, you know, up where the little daycare, whatever? What is that, all that parcel up there? Is that where the Upholds live?
Yeah, yeah.
What is that? Is that C1 or is that?
Like R2.
No, that's R2. R2?
Yeah.
Any reason that's R2 and,
Well,
or is it presently that?
that is, I think that is the only commercial entity in that residential district. So theoretically, you wouldn't permit a commercial business right in the middle of.
Yeah.
Is that an R2 or what is that?
It is.
It kind of,
That's all it could be. Colors match. But I
Steve,
don't
you don't have that.
C1. Should be C1.
Yeah, I would, well, I'm just wondering why it's not R2 with the,
So that's R2. This orange,
yeah,
that's R2.
that's what.
Pink is
Yeah.
C2,
Yeah.
and this is
So why
C1.
is it, why is it R2?
Because of lot sizes, probably.
But
Didn't
ain't
we-
there like one house
I
up there?
think we looked at some of those.
Big house.
Isn't that where the daycare center is?
Yeah.
Or is that-
But it's
that's
also
the top of
the Upholds, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But isn't it just one house?
Yeah, but it's a big one.
Yeah,
But the
We'll
thing
take a
is,
peek at that.
yeah,
I remember looking at some of those times.
that's his property, including the daycare center.
yeah.
I'll have to
I
take
mean,
a
it's
peek.
just one property owner, isn't it?
I'll put that on the notepad and have an
Yeah.
answer when we come back.
If any of us, if we study this, you don't mind us calling you and
Absolutely.
anything we see that,
Yeah.
for you to take a look at, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that'll help eliminate any non-conforming, creation of any new non-conforming. We don't want to, I mean, it always happens that with new ordinance, you're going to have some non-conforming properties. But we've worked to try to minimize that. And that's why the new R1, R2 use the same floor area and lot size as the existing.
That may have been one of the conditional zones.
Isn't that B.F. Goodrich property out there? Is it, what is it, R2?
Rich, where are you, Steve?
What the old Martha Mill was?
No, it's currently zoned heavy industrial. I have shown it as to be rezoned as C1 or neighborhood commercial.
It's an IDA in the city and the county. JD may know about this.
That fell through.
Did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that right, on this map, is it,
I don't know what you're showing. Are you showing it?
It's bluish, whitish. You want one?
Yeah, I don't think you've got it updated.
Yeah.
The one on the website,
This is the one that comes out for the first meeting on the 12th.
yeah. If you'll go to our website,
There.
Yeah,
Isn't that
so-
Martha Mills?
right, so if you go to the website, this whole parcel right here will now be this color, that orange. It'll be
Okay.
C1.
Okay, so that's already been changed. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll table the zoning map
Yeah.
for the next time we meet.
Okay, they good with everybody?
Yes.
And then Monday I can send out an email, and we can pick a day.
All right, let's work to number 5, authorization, updated policies and procedures for conducting zoning public hearings. Does this have anything to do with the 2 hearings now?
Yeah, I guess I kind of jumped ahead asking that question. I didn't,
Yeah,
you know.
all right, so Oasis, if you'd like to fill us in on
Well,
that.
that's really the only thing that we changed besides updating the application and making it a little bit more in-depth to help with that pre-screening process. This should also be included in the addition to the zoning commission being added. Policy and procedures.
Part of the process of
Right.
zoning.
Correct.
All right.
And I think the city attorney's drafted some language addressing the topic.
Okay. So do you guys want to table that as well? And I can get you,
I mean, if
The
we're going to
draft
come
will
back
be-
together to do
Yeah,
that, we might as
because it
well
probably
might
needs
as well
to
do-
be in writing, you know,
Right.
before we
see
vote
see
on it.
the final thing.
Yeah.
it should be similar to the other two, the joint planning commission.
Yeah, let's
and
add
the
that and our
zoning
name on there, and then
ordinance.
we'll have something
Does the
in hand we can
joint
vote.
city-county planning commission, are they going to be, when do they come into place on a property within the city of Thomaston,
So the way,
not bordering the county?
so the way that comes into place is if there is a property use or zoning change or annexation within 300 feet of the political boundary, whether that be in the county or in the city. So the planning law, I think it was House Bill 489 or whatever that created service delivery where they wanted to ensure compatible land uses between political boundaries so that you don't go from a R1 in the city to a heavy industrial right in the county. There's got to be some cohesion or transition between zoning districts. So they come into place where you're right there on the boundary to make sure.
But only then, they will not be, if this property right across the street here wanted to be
Correct.
rezoned,
It's only,
then they do not get involved in something within the city, not on the boundaries.
Right.
correct.
Okay. And I think that's rightfully so, but I didn't understand all of that from the way it was written here.
Correct. It's probably not. I think that was part of the confusion, so that'll be rectified.
Okay.
Okay, all right, in other business, anybody give any thought to renaming the corridor? We talked about that at the last meeting. And just some, if you think about it,
It's now Gateway.
we don't want you to name it after yourself.
Just to let you know, it's Gateway Area 1 now.
Is it? Oh, it's already been
It must
renamed?
be in Area 2 somewhere. But anyway.
Is that already taken care of? Have they already
No,
renamed?
that's how it is in the existing ordinance, Gateway Area 1. It's mostly about landscaping. There's
Okay.
a lot of specifications on climbing trees,
Mhm.
and not much beyond that. That's why it's important for the Article 6, the architectural design standards. I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to reinforce the historic district standards and make it more enforceable.
Sort of like Augusta National, Azalea Drive, Magnolia,
Yeah.
yeah, something
Something
like,
that gives an identity.
yeah.
You know, for me, it was just, I forgot what to call it now, but it's probably all the corridors should have some sort of identity, you know, the gateways
Mhm.
to the city.
So you can expound on that in your spare time if you want to.
Detailed slums.
And then I have something for other business.
Okay.
I know that this is a Friday meeting, which is not normally the day that we meet on. And it did go from Mondays to Tuesdays. Is there any objection to move it back to Mondays at 2:30? Would that be a hardship for anyone or inconvenient?
Why would you want to move it back to Monday? Is there a reason?
Some of the board members would have the day off of work, and right now on Tuesday they're having to ask off and use time. So it'd be more convenient if we could meet Monday at 2:30 instead of Tuesdays at 2:30.
Tuesdays can get muddled too if there's a zoning question and it's the day of a council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you another few hours to
Yeah.
straighten it out.
If it benefits, you know, the council, I don't have a problem with it. Anybody else?
I'm okay with Monday.
Yeah, because we don't meet every month anyway. you know,
Right.
it just.
So we want to go back to Mondays at 2:30.
If you'd like, yeah. Do you need a motion on that, or do you just need to put it in the minutes and we go with it? Because you can call us anytime, actually, you know.
We pretty much.
We met today.
When you tell us we need to meet,
You know,
that's what we do.
we're here today, so it's,
Right.
it's nothing that's like,
I'll just notate it for the record and.
okay, that's good. All right. Any other business? Okay, well, I'd love to hear a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I have a motion, and about a second. Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, thank y'all, appreciate it. Thank you, Bill.
We're certainly so happy to have our honorable mayor,
Yeah.
J.D. Staley. Good to see you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you all, and if you guys, again.
Thank you very kind.
Oh, no, that's your copy.
Well, I thought it was kind of,
I'll make
everybody got it.
copies.
So we-
You move seats, and I think it
Okay,
stayed
that's what
behind.
I didn't realize this was mine to keep.
But if you guys see anything or changes, you can keep it. Just please email us so we can get on that for you
So
guys,
this is
okay?
replacing the back part, right?
I would replace the whole thing.
Whole thing, okay, I got it.
Yep, this is the updated,
Oh,
verified, the January
got it.
26th is the
Okay.
most recent,
All
okay?
right.
Where do you sign football? Where do you sign football? Do you sign
The survey?
Slide right by.
Oh, he just a junior.
Hey, Russell,
Hey, T, when you
the red circle, tell me again what